My name is Kevin Abdulrahman. You know me as the man inspiring millions, a motivational speaker, public speaking coach to world leaders, an advisor and strategist to gaming, NFTs, and metaverse projects. Kicking it with Kev today is a friend, Philip Devine, the founder and CEO of Riveted Games. Now, you might not know of this name, but this is the studio and the developer that's behind CryptoBlades CryptoBlades and CryptoBlades Kingdom, and a whole heap of other things that's in the pipeline that is being built as part of their ecosystem. Let's have a chat. And if you're here watching this video, I believe that you're going to gain a lot of insights from Philip. What's good, my bro?
Hey, glad to be here. Thanks for having me today.
Man, I appreciate your time. Given how hectic Web3 is, given how hectic you are with your project and the ecosystem play that you're doing, thank you very much for making the time.
Yeah, absolutely. I know it's a crazy time, but I don't think it's going to be slowing down anytime soon. So, you always got to kind of stop and smell the roses, so to speak. And so I'm really glad to, be chatting with someone as experienced as yourself in this space. So hopefully we can really learn a lot from each other today.
Thanks, bro. Man, tell us, where you were perhaps 2 years ago and how different it is today. And I guess in the process, folks who don't know about CryptoBlades, or if they don't know about Riveted Games, they'll get to learn about it from the perspective of a journey, because I really enjoyed hearing it in our previous call.
Yeah, absolutely. So 2 years ago, yeah, wow.
Or you can pick any time frame.
Yeah, no, that's a great time frame, really. I think it kind of I think highlights a lot of the different places that I've been personally, that Riveted Games has been as a company, and it's a time before CryptoBlades was even conceived as an idea. And so yeah, 2 years ago, I was working as basically an IT contractor. I had my company Riveted Technology, which is sort of the subsidiary or kind of sister company of Riveted Games. I would do a lot of business to business work, and really learned a lot just from a technical standpoint as a programmer, as a developer, managing other developers, as well as running Riveted Games kind of on the side. I say on the side, but it was really my true passion was in game development and making different games, whether that's, my very first game, which I programmed on my train rides to work, that was Falling Stars, ended up finding a publisher for it, getting it released on Steam. That was an amazing experience. That was started back in 2014.
Good stuff.
Then I used that experience to actually start helping other independent developers, a lot of times single man studios, get their name out there, help coordinate testing and kind of giving another set of eyes to projects. Because one of the things with games that even we experience a lot, especially in the crypto space, where there's a very high velocity of development speed, a lot of times you jump into a project and it's like, maybe in an alpha state and you're like, wow, I don't even know what I'm doing. But the developers don't know that. They know exactly how it works, and they know the intention and the vision. And so I kind of come from this maybe macro space where I understand where developers are coming from because I've done it. And then I also understand where the gamers are coming from because I've really worked the past 8 years getting to know gamers and going to all kinds of different conventions, been to PAX East, PAX West, PAX South, which are our major gaming conventions in the United States. Showed my games there, partnered with other publishers, got to know a lot of other development companies. And so all that being said, that's kind of the previous 6 years prior to 2 years ago. And I was basically funding it through the sales of our games, as well as through the kind of IT business to business, sort of, bread and butter kind of the IT company. And from there,
in essence, self-made, right?
Yeah, definitely.
You're pretty much you self-funded and you did the whole thing bootstrapping it, right? Yourself.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So I would, if I had a big idea for a game project, I would pick up another IT contract and work a little bit more and make a little bit more money and bring, expand the team a little bit, and then, kind of go from there because it's tough. You're really, it's a gamble, really. When you're making a game of any kind, it's a real gamble because you don't know if the year or two of work is going to pan out in a sales standpoint. I mean, there's probably now in this space, because there's so many tools to make games like Unity and Unreal, which are, you know, names that I think most people have heard of now. Somebody can come in with very little programming experience and get a game released. And because of that, it's really hard to cut through the noise. So the Steam platform was really big for that in the start. If you got on Steam, you were going to be successful. And
it was a big deal back then.
Yeah, exactly. And now anybody can kind of make a game and put it on Steam themselves for like $100 fee, and there's a lot of noise there. So so I started with, you know, developing all kinds of different products and games, and we've released 5 different games. All of those are you know, currently for sale and still actively being played. And then in the beginning of 2021, I kind of had this idea based on what I saw in the blockchain space with NFTs, where wow, NFTs are kind of like cryptocurrency, except they're like from programming language, they're like game objects. And you can add all kinds of different stats to them, and you can have levels, and they can have progress, and they can have utility. And I just was like, this is awesome, you know. And you have that sort of same game economy, like you know, in World of Warcraft, you have World of Warcraft Gold and or Platinum, etc. And it's like, well, why don't you just make that a cryptocurrency? And then people can actively trade that. And then the money that they're, you know, utilizing in the game, they can either reinvest to make their characters stronger, or they can, you know, just maybe cash out and make a little bit of money. And so that was the whole premise behind CryptoBlades, was let's put out some basic game objects. Let's put out a basic cryptocurrency. I was floored when we actually like raised money through a public sale. This again wasn't, there was no seed funding or private sale associated with it. It was very much just me kind of trying to figure it out. Reached out to like a bunch of launch pads and got someone to say, hey, yeah, let's put this project out there.
And what, if I remember this correctly, or correct me if I'm wrong, but your vision was just, you just had a small vision, right? Comparison to what happened.
Yes, I was looking at the So I was looking at the market, so to speak, and there was Axie, and Axie was really not that big, but it was a big name. Like, it was still a fairly successful company, and there was, you know, the guilds and things like that were starting to become popular. But other than that, there was like really nothing. And I wasn't necessarily looking to Axie as like, hey, that's what I want to create. In fact, one thing I didn't quite direction I wanted to go separate from Axie was I want to do this entirely layer 1, meaning I want all of the NFTs, all of the game logic to be like on a smart chain. I don't really want like just an online game that kind of pushes stuff out to the blockchain from time to time. And so so when I was looking at similar projects, I was like, oh, this project is pretty cool, and it looks like they made like $10,000. You know, that would be like a good, if I can spend a couple months with my team, I have a little bit of margin there. You know, if I make like $10,000 on this game. And so we released it, and people started playing it, and it was like, at that point, once it's out there, and that's really the beauty of this whole decentralized nature of blockchain games, is they kind of took ownership of it, and they started to drive the economy. And it was really not built for that kind of scale, to be honest. At that time, it's changed a lot since then, but it just floored me, like how many people got involved. And yeah, I mean, the rest is history. It's been a wild ride, but you know, now we are focusing on all right, so here's what we learned basically, and what can we do to not only do better ourselves, but support the multitude of projects that are now coming out in GameFi.
Before you share with us some of the thoughts, can you tell us the numbers? Because you went from, if we do 10,000, that's great. I just checked your standing on Depp Radar, and I think you're number 8. So
yeah,
the 8th top game, not by we have a top game, which a lot of people can claim, by users.
Right. Yeah. So we are at one point we were number 1, like in the absolute prime. I think we had like over 300,000 daily active users. It was total insanity. It was amazing. And even still now, we are a top 10 blockchain game in the world. We're actually launched.
You're top 10 pretty much every week.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. And we're climbing too. So, you know, maybe 2 months ago, we were like top 20. Because there was just a kind of rebuilding phase that we had, where it's like, oh wow, like this MVP, which, or minimum viable product, is what we put out in June, and we had like no time to respond to like the immense amount of user base and activity that was happening. And so what happened was we had this huge influx of users, and we're kind of like very, very quickly, like for example, we created an entire NFT marketplace from scratch in 8 days. With like no starting point, no like it wasn't just a fork of an existing, so there wasn't an existing solution. And so that's kind of just to give people an idea of like what we were up against when it as far as supporting a user base of that size. And so but yes, that being said, we are now we've had over 1.2 million players play the game to date. We are a top 10 blockchain game in the world and climbing. I believe that we can be top 1. But really my goal isn't just about that. That's kind of to illustrate it, but I want to be a sustainable play to earn economy that creates a consistent earning potential for players, for anyone who decides that they want to kind of really even take this on potentially as their primary or maybe a side hustle, so to speak. And I want there to be some challenge and some skill to it, and kind of optimal ways to play that people who are really into this can maximize their earnings. And so that's kind of where we're at just with the CryptoBlades side of things. And then additionally, yeah, we know what I mentioned about creating an entire ecosystem around this as well. But yeah, we've had blown it out of the water, blown that $10,000 initial goal out of the water.
Good stuff, man. So I've got many questions. Hopefully I'll perhaps rapid fire them, and then I'll come back to them one at a time. Hopefully I remember, because I've got a goldfish memory. How do you execute at such a rapid pace? Because 8 days to build an NFT marketplace from scratch, it's not a small feat, right? And I'm asking this question, hoping that the insights can be useful for folks who are having to constantly, because rarely do you deploy something and then your community goes, hey, this is bang on 100%, right? You have to constantly iterate, and you have to reiterate, and that's just the reality of it. And very often you have to do U-turns, if not like pivot and do like 180s.
Yes, definitely. So it's there's kind of many tiers to it. There's primarily, and number one, and what I have to stay true to is like, what's the vision of the company? And I know that's like very maybe esoteric, but at the time our vision was, I want to create a safe and sustainable economy for our players. And the reason that we built the NFT marketplace the way we did was because everybody was doing like peer-to-peer trading. And and the kind of, so at the top level is, I want to create a safe and useful environment for players. At a bottom level, the challenge was players are doing kind of this peer-to-peer thing, and some people are getting scammed and things like that. And so how can we create some functionality very quickly that solves that problem? Like, so you have to also know what the exact problem is. And so the reason we were able to put out a solution that was meeting the user's needs at the time was because it aligned with that vision of creating a safe environment, and it solved one specific problem, which was, how can we create kind of this escrow contract and this interface from our web front end to solve that? And what we kind of what we had to cut out of it was maybe some more user-friendly filtering or performance. At times it performed very poorly, and so there was definitely, like, we didn't create the best NFT marketplace in 8 days. That being said, what's our vision now? We want to be the best in every sector that we are in. So what have we done? Well, we've taken that, which was working, and maybe we didn't have to spend a lot of time on it, but now we have Bazaar.market, which is our new marketplace, and is built with all of these other things in mind, as far as, hey, look, we have this huge user base. We are in a position to offer a service to other projects, where now, how about we create a completely configurable NFT marketplace as a service? And so now any game project can contact us and fill out basically some templates and have a much better user experience than if they were to list on something like OpenSea, which really only is good for filtering collections and looking at images. But for GameFi, as I mentioned, you have stats, levels, traits, all these other utilities that users need to be able to filter on, and only the project owners kind of know what those are. And so we're giving them tools to say, hey, look, apply to us. Safety, that core value is still maintained. So we're going through a 16-point security checklist with every single project that we whitelist and curate. And so that vision obviously is still maintained, because what if we created the best, but now we're having some issues like OpenSea just had, where there's millions of dollars of NFTs which have been stolen recently due to like phishing attacks and things like that. So or even lots of counterfeit NFTs being sold on the platform. So it's kind of like a major challenge, and is really difficult to organize in my mind a lot of times. Like, hey, what are some of the things that we said we really value? Okay, well, let's make sure that user safety is still like number one, because that's like a foundational piece of what we build. So hopefully that kind of answers some of the question. I know it kind of went off on a tangent with that example, but
no, it's all good.
It's all related. Yeah.
Can you hear me okay? Because I hear some sort of like an echo, but are you hearing me okay?
I can hear you just
okay,
fine.
Cool.
If there's an echo, I can also turn some things down on my end.
No, it's all good. As long as you
Cool.
can hear me, I can hear you well.
Cool.
When you mentioned verticals, it reminded me of the conversation we had, how you've been inspired by the way Amazon built their business from what they were to what they are today. I'd really love for you to touch on that, because I feel that I just think it's inspiring and more people should hear it.
Yeah, so I think when you look at any kind of major corporation like Amazon, that's sometimes it seems like, wow, what do I have in common with them, or is what they've done even repeatable or achievable for a company like mine? And one thing that really stuck out to me, really through seeing them grow from a technology perspective. So like personally, I mentioned I worked in this B2B IT consulting business for many years, and I was certified in all these different AWS or Amazon Web Services products. And so very, very early on, it hit me like, wow, this company is doing something entirely different. And it prompted me to start looking at what their margins are. And I was floored that their online shopping had like, something like at the time, $200 billion in revenue. And like $190 billion in costs. So meaning they had about a $10 billion margin, or 5% margin on their online shopping, which is what everybody knows them for. And then I took a look at AWS, and it was bringing in like 50 billion in revenue, which was insane to me at the time. I knew that it was utilized by everybody, but now we can kind of see, especially through, unfortunately, outages or stuff like that, like AWS has an outage and the whole world is crying about it. But it's because they've totally taken this IT services as a business and just run with it, really.
And you realize their money wasn't that 50 billion, wasn't it?
Exactly. Their margins on that were like 40 billion. So it was like 80% margins on all these IT services. And so it got me thinking like, wow, why a company that sells books, like how did they transition into a company that took over the IT infrastructure of the entire world? And what dawned on me was, well, in order to support one of the first online marketplaces, obviously they started it with selling books, and now they sell everything. And how do you even scale to that size? Like, it's not just more computers. Anyone who's in IT can tell you it's not just more computers and then everything goes faster, right? There's tons and tons and tons of innovation involved to do what they've done. And what they've, from what I can see, they said, well, we're the only ones in the world who have ever solved this problem. So we can make a lot of money by solving this problem for other people. And so what I see that they've done is take this IT infrastructure that they built in order to create the most popular online marketplace in the world and say, look, we can offer this to every other company and now be their backbone, because they're not going to do it themselves. Like, it's amazing that we even did it, and maybe they're going to have some in-house services, but this whole boom of cloud services was about, it's going to cost a company $50,000 in servers and $150,000 in personnel to be able to run it and manage it, and yada yada. And then, or you can have a subscription for $500 a month or $5,000 a month, to Amazon Web Services, and you can solve all of these different problems. And now other companies can scale in the way that Amazon is scaled. And so I saw that opportunity within the blockchain space, because as a company, I'm not building an NFT bridge because I think it's needed. I'm building an NFT bridge because we have over 5 million NFTs minted on our platform. We have 5, soon to be 6 different smart chains that we support within our product. And our users need the ability to move between chains to take advantage of the best gas prices, to take advantage of transactions per second, to take advantage of the DeFi opportunities that exist on all of these different chains. And so we built an NFT bridge, which has now been utilized over 100,000 times by our users. And now we are onboarding other businesses and offering this service to them, where all they'll need to do is send us their smart contracts that they want their on-chain data to be reflected by. And then we can add that to our completely scalable NFT bridge into kind of something similar to like what Amazon has done. And because it's going to cost us to me a lot cheaper than trying to redevelop, reinvent the wheel. And additionally, they don't have to have all the different personnel like we do, and we support it. And it's kind of on us then at that point. But that's kind of what the bizarre marketplace is to.
You solved your own problem, and then you thought, hey, let's do the Amazon model. There's bound to be others who also face the same problem. We can save you time. We can save you resources. Plug and play, right?
Yes,
in essence,
exactly.
For a fee.
Yep, exactly.
That's great. How do you seek out and see opportunities apart from solving your own problem? Because
another great question.
From what I've gathered from you, you like to be first and you like to be pretty good at what you do, and I admire that. That's
definitely true. I don't do things that don't have some risk associated with them, in the sense that there might not be a market. Like a lot of times, like with CryptoBlades, we kind of created a market because there wasn't any other game or NFT game or anything like that where just the everyday person could afford to purchase an NFT. Like in our case, you can even get started right now for like $3. That's like the entry point is very, very low as compared to at the time, even with Axie, it was like $3,000 for an Axie. And so, and of course, then there's this whole scholarship thing, which is a whole nother, in guilds, and that's a whole nother area. But I wanted to create something that was achievable for anybody. And so that was new and that was risky. And like I said, the market that existed at the time, maybe I was going to make like $10,000 on that. And yet, it also kind of filled this vacuum in the space that I completely underestimated, which was the amount of people who want to be able to own those NFTs and who want to be able to even just be early in this space, like, hey, I want to earn scale tokens because I think it's going to take off, or I want to own these NFTs because maybe one day it's going to be worth $5,000 like an Axie is. And so being first is definitely important to me and important to us as a company. Being the best at what we do is something that, again, probably comes from me personally. Like from my experience, I was on the United States gymnastics team, traveled the world, and and competed all over the place for that. And then I was in college, I was an NCAA champion for springboard diving, and like it's definitely something that's very much like ingrained in me to not just do something and not even really do my best, although that's kind of what I do go for. But when I see that maybe what the market has positioned as the best is not even close to what I see us being able to achieve, that's where I kind of step in and I'm like, look, we can do this. Like, my best I think is better than the best, and let's go and do it. Yeah, so
that's great. And I mean, one of the challenges a lot of folks are having in this space is being able to gather strong team members, right? Because whoever is good at what they do, if they have talent and they're willing to do it and they get it, right, they're pretty much occupied. How have you been able to gather folks to help you with that vision? Because my next follow-on question is, how do you get things done, given that you got so much to do? Take it in any direction.
Yeah. So as far as teams, we have a lot of the same challenges that everybody else has as far as team building. There's a lot of turnover. We hold people to very high standards, and we communicate that right off the bat. like here's, everybody, even though we're in a decentralized sort of structure, we have daily asynchronous stand-ups where everybody says what they're working on, what their blockers are. That's on like an operational level. And from a hiring level, what it's come down to is through experience. Just sometimes you just got to make that first hire, and you got to just see how it goes, and you have to learn what to look for. And of course, there's many. I'm sure if people follow you, they can learn a lot of maybe what the hurdles are going to be. And in our case, a lot of it was just through, hey, we're scaling super quick right now. We got to bring some people on, and everybody kind of knows like what the expectations are. But additionally, once you find those people, you really have to treat them well. I mentioned that whole building an NFT marketplace in 8 days. Like there was a real cost to that, especially to our development team. And at that kind of pace, we had to make a decision like, are we going to run at this pace forever? Or are we going to draw a line in the sand and say, at one point we have to be sustainable as a company, not just sustainable as a protocol. And if we can't be sustainable as a company, then the protocol is bound to fail. It just is. And so, that kind of relayed into, creating the kind of work-life balance that we want for other people, that we want for ourselves. Even myself, like I, will take off, most weekends. I will take off most evenings and spend that with the people that matter to me. And that builds me up. That allows me to keep going, because I want to be in this industry for like 50 plus years. And
man, this is so crucial. Please just put this back for a minute, and just to hear it again, right? Because we're so go. I had to even have this conversation with myself today at the gym. I'm like, hey man, spend time with your mom, right?
Yeah.
You're on the phone call, you're doing this, you're doing that, you're talking to people, you're doing advisory. Have you spend time with your mom? Like, what's important for you, Kev, right? And it's very often we need to have these conversations, right? Taking the weekend off, spending the evenings for yourself, and just to recharge and with your loved ones, so you can be here for the next 50 years.
Yeah, exactly. And another thing I found too, because there's this fear that if I do that, I'm going to miss opportunities. And there might be opportunities that you miss, and also realize that there's opportunities you're missing because you're so worn down. So one of the things that I'm kind of like famous for with the executive team is on Sundays, typically the executive team will get these emails that I'll say like, don't read till Monday, but it'll be like a ton of stuff. And that's like my creative juices are flowing again. Like I've just taken Saturday off, and maybe I'm personally wiped out because I took the kids to a water park or something like that, right? But I wasn't working on, blockchain stuff or company stuff. And so Sunday rolls around, and it's just like I'm sitting there, and these ideas are just starting to like swirl in my head again, and my vision is becoming clearer again. And I'm Sundays are kind of like, even though I'm not working really, I am.
That's where all the good stuff happens, right?
Yeah, it really does. It really does. All that good stuff happens because I'm not sitting in front of the computer. I'm not, doing messages. I'm not checking in on things. Like I'm disconnected for the most part, and I'm just like slamming it down into an email as it's coming. Kind of like a vision walk, I guess. And then that helps with just keeping alignment, because then Monday rolls around, we're setting up like what's really important. My brain has finally processed everything from the previous week and is recognizing, what the next steps for this week should be, and even what the next steps for the next months or years need to be. And so there's a cost to just going, and there's a benefit to stopping and resting.
100%, man. And I think with every year that passes us by, both age-wise, but also experience, right? You realize that there is more value in just taking a moment to calm down. And even if it means at the cost of missing things, but like you said, right? You're missing more by just going, go the whole time. Like if you don't step back, you can't see the picture, right? If you're in the frame, you don't see the picture. You need to step back a bit.
Yeah, definitely. And then one more thing that kind of comes out of that too is I've found that it's far more valuable for me to make like one like really good decision every day than it is to make 100 decisions every day of questionable quality or even questionable focus. You know, if I can take that one decision and put 8 hours of thought into it and come up with, you know, a very well developed, whether it's for alignment or company vision or even for a particular feature, because sometimes I do get down into the weeds and I'm thinking like, wow, you know, what can we make, what can we do to make player versus player like really pop based on what I'm seeing on a macro level in the blockchain space, versus hey, what should the tuning be for how much this NFT is worth or that NFT is worth? And it's, you know, okay, let me just pump something out there. But if I can really spend a lot of time just on that, like one really good decision every day, you know, that helps. And granted, there's many decisions we do have to make, but take the time for the ones that are important and do those like really exceptionally well.
What's an important one, or what's a recent one you've had to do?
Sure. So
it's such a good point that you've highlighted.
Yeah. I think one big one is you know, an area that we've been kind of we do a lot of different things, like as far as, hey, what's the marketing team up to, or what's the development team up to, and how are our different tokens doing, and how are those projects actually developing. And so I have been kind of running around like crazy trying to sort of, you know, push all of these different places around, you know, myself. And what I realized was instead, I need to spend some significant time on one particular directive for marketing team and one particular directive for development team to make sure that they're aligned. And so what that ended up looking like was, you know, it's going to start off as a spreadsheet, but the idea is going to be fleshed out. If we need other products, whatever, to make this more organized in the future, that's fine. But what I need everybody to do is sit down and take 2 days off of marketing if you need to. Like, don't even market the products. Like, just sit down and fill out, you know, the next week's worth of materials, of content. And I want you guys to write out for me, but really for yourselves and for everyone else too, like what's the goal of each of these different campaigns that we're going to be running, and then just drop those dates in that spreadsheet all the way down to like the end of the year. And eventually we'll just keep filling this thing out. But I want this content plan to be something where the development team is on board, because we're not, for example, there's this constant back and forth in this fast moving industry of we're putting out marketing material that's now putting pressure on the development team, because the development team has to now come through on it and they weren't necessarily in the loop. And like, we have all these issues like within the company about just keeping everybody in the loop. And so this directive, instead of me just trying to like put people in the right places and be a part of 100 different meetings, you know, every single day, it wasn't going to be a sustainable method for keeping everybody on track. And so yeah, this initiative was just, I need you guys to do this. Everybody stop everything you're doing. We're going to go in a completely different direction. The development team is going to be able to review, and the marketing team is going to be able to explain the intention. And moving forward, there's no more blame games. There's no more I didn't know about this, and as a result, my hope, and this is something that's like even in the works, like, right, this might fail, but this is kind of the decision I made. It was, I want everybody to be completely aligned so that we can be working together, staying passionate about the products that we're building, and staying focused on like when I look at this plan and I see, great, we're saying a lot about the product, but are we saying enough about the token? You know, I don't really have to be involved, because all those questions are kind of there, because I've laid out on a macro scale all the things that are important to us as a company and as a product, and now they can kind of fill in the blanks, versus me reviewing a whole bunch of different, you know, tweets, or reviewing a bunch of Medium articles, or, you know, things like that, because I can't do that. And the team, you know, they need some direction on, like, you know, they need someone on the higher level, like telling people what it is that the challenges are from the other side. And so it's kind of a system, you know, that we put in place. So that's kind of like one example of, you know, we had a problem and there's that solution, and it's taken just some, you know, reworking. But
yeah, this reminds me of a book I read, which was The One Thing. Did you ever read it?
I haven't, but I've heard of it.
Yes, it's super cool. And in essence, it's pretty much what you've implemented, right? And the the thesis of that book, the one-liner of it was, what's the one thing you can do that by doing it makes it makes every other decision or every action either obsolete or negligible, right? So it's just that one thing that you do, and it has that kind of like just flow-on impact.
Right. Yeah, that makes complete sense. Yeah, and that's definitely where we're at with. I want us to be that Amazon of the blockchain space.
I was going to say, tell me the vision of Riveted Games.
Yeah. So for Riveted Games, we've got our focus in our niche, which is blockchain gaming, and we have experience in traditional gaming as well. So that factors into it too. And additionally, because we're the first in this space, and because we are one of the most successful in this space, we are positioned uniquely to provide trustworthy services to other projects. And so I definitely see us, I've kind of gone over it a little bit with what we're doing on the NFT bridge, but additionally, GameFi is so much more than even just the games and the technology. So we also have the communities behind it. So, we are advising and helping build a content creation platform where content creators in the space can monetize, their unique vision and unique take on things. Communities can subscribe and can learn and can grow themselves. So, it's kind of creating this market somewhat like what Patreon has done for the content creator platforms of allowing creators to monetize themselves. That's one element. So that's this community building aspect where we want to be facilitating that, again, in a blockchain specific and in a Web 3.0 way. Additionally, we have, for example, an in-house merchandise fulfillment product where our users, they earn skill tokens by playing the game. They can actually use those skill tokens to go to a merchandise store and pay for hundreds of different physical goods items completely with skill token, pay for shipping and everything, worldwide fulfillment in 2 weeks. And again, what's the goal there? Well, we want to build technology that helps our product and other products to develop brand awareness, brand loyalty, and token utility. And because those are some areas that I think are lacking in GameFi right now. And
real ones, right? A lot of folks talk about it. You're talking about real utility, like real use case. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So, so it's based on not only some of the needs that I've seen that we have as a GameFi company, but additionally, a lot of the shortcomings of or really challenges that anyone in this space is going to face. And I expect these offerings to continue to grow as we recognize them. And because we have the development resources, because we have even an immediate market to make some of these services profitable for ourselves, we can afford to, that's kind of that unique position that we have. We can afford to build them, test them out with our community, work out some of the kinks. And then when we go to sell that to somebody else, we can provide ourselves as the case study, as the use case for it. So, so that's kind of the goal, is providing all of this for GameFi. And maybe eventually that'll go out into the entire blockchain space. Like, our NFT bridge, for example, could definitely be used for just image-based NFTs, moving them across bridge, right? That's across chains. That's totally doable. And yet I'm also making sure that we're not losing focus of the primary people that we are serving, and that we have the knowledge and unique vision to serve, because maybe we're not maybe we're not in a unique position to provide that particular art-based NFT bridging service. And so I'm going to put that on the back burner. So it's also about deciding what routes not to go down, because we're maybe not the best at it right now, or maybe we're not in a unique position. But for the ones that we choose, it's like, what's the low-hanging fruit? Let's really take a hard look at what we can do exceptionally well that nobody else is doing, and then take advantage of this position that we're in and make it happen.
Man, I admire you as a builder, as a leader, as a founder, and as a visionary. I really believe, and I felt it from our first conversation, then having followed you for a number of months, that you're the kind of person that will indeed, if not do one better than Amazon, right? So Riveted Games will be seen in that light, if not bigger. I have no doubt.
Awesome, thanks. I really appreciate that. That means a lot to me. Yeah.
No, 100%, man. Any parting thoughts before we close out the videos? Perhaps any tips, thoughts, advice, or lessons learned? You can take this in any direction that you would give yourself or someone who's new in the space that might be seeking to build or to hopefully make a positive impact in the space?
Yeah, definitely. I would say it's you don't have to go against the current necessarily, right? But you can definitely go across the current. And what I mean by that is when you see people going down that path, it's okay, good. There's some traction there, and I'm gonna jump in, right? Like I got into games because that was going with the current. Like people love games, right? I'm not building any other kind of crazy thing. I'm building games because that's where I'm in. So I think with anyone who's listening, if you do have a unique perspective, every single person does, and maybe you're not, going to lead some huge major company. Trust me, you maybe don't even want to. It's been a challenge this past year.
We talked about pulling hair, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's like, I mean, some days I'm on a call, I'm on a video call, and I'm like, everybody, please excuse like my hair. I've literally been pulling it today, and it's it's a real challenge, and it's sometimes very heavy too. I have a smile on my face, but I don't all the time. And but that being said, if you're a developer, for example, and you have a product or a project in mind, then take a look at what it is that you want to take on, right? If you want to, if you don't want to be talking to venture capital all day or doing this and that, there's so many options for you. You can go talk to a launchpad, and they're going to be able to facilitate finding maybe some buyers to help fund your really great idea. But go ahead and build it, and when you build it, make sure that there's your fingerprint on it, that there's something about it that is, as I mentioned, maybe going across the current, that you're going into a place in the river that hasn't been gone before, but there's going to be a market, and there's going to be some traction for you for doing that. And additionally, I think is just like the last parting thought really for anyone is don't let the failures convince you that there's that you're doing something wrong, because we failed 100 times, even over the past year. And I've even had tons and tons of projects that have not been profitable or successful, but I didn't stop what I was doing because I recognized that what I was doing was still in line with my passions and with my experience. And yeah, I mean, everybody has to fail. It's maybe a common theme these days, but I mean, I could even consider, CryptoBlades as the failures for CryptoBlades, right? Even though we are like a top 10 blockchain game in the world, I could easily get down on myself about some of the failures of the past year. But instead, I just hunkered down and I just continued building because I'm not going anywhere. So I definitely encourage everybody to just keep building after you build, even if it doesn't maybe meet your expectations. So that's I would love awesome, to see and hear from anyone that does that. Yeah.
That's super cool. Hey, when you fail forward, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And every group, regardless of size, they're all failing. Even the best of the best. Well, I guess that's just part of it.
That sure is. Yep.
Man, I appreciate you. Appreciate your time, folks. If you've watched this video and your intention was to pick out a gem or just to learn something, Philip is mindful of them. This is not financial advice. Nothing here. We're just friends talking. Please follow through. Follow Philip on the socials. Follow Riveted Games, CryptoBlades Kingdom. There's going to be a whole heap of stuff that you're going to see Philip do. He's building an ecosystem. This is a man that you want to keep an eye on, right? The Jeff Bezos of the future. Remember, it was said here. I hope that whoever you are, wherever you are, that you get inspired, you get informed, and you get going. And always remember, be kind, be ambitious, be grateful.